Everybody, welcome back to another episode of FSIDFS, Fantasy NASCAR Pick Show. This is your host, Mega Ruler 31. Appreciate everybody who watched last week's video. We had over 1,000 views, so thank you so much for watching and for sharing, and hopefully you did well in your contest. Xfinity window was a little tight today, so like video was only out for like a couple hours before lock. And we're gonna have times like that this season. Fortunately, next week with Atlanta, it looks like we have trucks, Xfinity, and Cup all qualifying the day before. So I should be able to have an accurate video. And in times later on in the season where we're not going to have that, then we'll like look at the data and do a speculation video and talk about, good plays that we like if they qualify here or there. But unless you have the actual numbers, and sometimes it's hard to do. So that's why it's important, if you want all the information for those races in my sheet, sign up for FSIDFS.com. The information is in the information to the video. Click the link there. Our packages are very cheap. $5 for a week in NASCAR. $10. I'm sure you spend more of this in some of your contracts. $10 for a month. It's $75 for the whole season. It used to be like 160, but I know times are tough and money's tight. So, I'm not here to try to make lots and lots of money off of people subscribing. We do have some bills and stuff to pay, so it does help us continue to keep our program going. And but anyways, it really reasonable pricing. But enough of the commercials. Let's get on to the slate. Xfinity, decent race today. I don't think any of the top lineups had Kyle Busch in them, so I think it was another week to kind of fade that price, even though he was like in a great position to move up, but he just didn't dominate the race. Like he finished well, like in the top 5, I believe it was, and led some laps, but it wasn't enough to make a difference. So congratulations, Sammy Smith, the talented young driver. He's like, I think he's 18 years old in high school still, so it's just crazy. And Ryan Truex looked decent too, and I think he's in the car next week, so we'll have to watch that in Atlanta. So overall, Moffitt did what he needed to do. I got a lot of people like scratching their brows when they saw I made him a prime pick. But my whole thing is I'm not going to pick all the chalk guys for you. I'm going to try to give you some other avenues to go. So, you can go anywhere else and you can see all the chalk guys and who everybody's talking about. And, I'll go over who the slam dunk plays are. But, I want you to be able to think and be creative, and maybe, some of your contests, like find another path that's just as effective. And if one of the chalk guys has an issue and it doesn't work out, then you have so much leverage. So again, just trying to teach you to think a little bit here, so you don't have like a duplicate lineup and like split a pot and double up and not even double up your money. So stuff like that. So anyways, Justin Allgaier, I thought it was a very solid play. It was doing well and just clawed his way up, led the race, got back up to the front, just got taken out in a stupid bad luck incident. And, so that kind of ended my DFS day. So lost a little bit, not too bad, just been crushing it in World Baseball Classic. So that definitely made up for what the little I lost in Xfinity, but we're on to Cup now. So Phoenix, we got a new package here. They're trying to take some downforce away from this car so that in cars in dirty air and in traffic can actually pass each other, and it'll be a more competitive race. This is a raceway where they like all can really fan out, be like 4, 5, 6 wide, it seems. They're like running almost on pit road below the yellow line everywhere on the track. They're high, they're low. Vegas was a little like that too, but it seems even more extreme. On restarts, you have cars everywhere. Looks like rush hour in the 405 in LA. So, but again, like once they got going, then the cars, it was hard to pass. They took 2 inches off the spoiler, so it's like a 2-inch spoiler, and they took some parts from underneath the car, and they said that this has the least amount of downforce that they've had since the cars that they ran in the 90s. So they're expecting a fast car with opportunity to pass, and it should be very, very good racing here. They also added a windshield wiper to them, mud flaps, and a reflector light on it, because I think it was like Coda a couple years ago. The first time they ran in the rain, they had like rooster tails. If you had a car in front of you, you couldn't even see. I don't think it's not supposed to rain tomorrow, but they have these cars set up so that they can run the short tracks and the road courses with having wipers and lights and mud flaps on them, so they are able to not have to worry about weather. So I don't think weather's going to be an issue tomorrow. I think it's going to be fine. But again, they just have to get used to this new package. The windshield wiper has to be in the 12 o'clock position because some of the teams played around with it too to get a little bit more aerodynamic. So NASCAR said, nope, enough of that. Windshield wiper goes straight up if you're not using it. The only other thing I kind of noticed from practice is the Toyota kind of seemed to still be struggling a little bit with speed. So we'll have to watch that. But let's break down the slate. So Kyle Larson, he has been so dominant here in Phoenix over the last couple of years. And he obviously won the title here. And I think that was something that, you know, his pit crew really helped him out with that, with the setup. Also get him off of a pit lane. He's got like the premier stall here, so could be a huge advantage, but he's going to be expensive. DK knew that he was going to be, and I think he'll be a chalk and probably the highest owned driver, and that's fine. The only reason I'm not making him a prime play is watching practice. All these teams were cheating so much with the tire pressure in order to try to get more grip, to try to get an advantage on the track. And Kyle Larson, I have seen him so many times last year be so aggressive on his tires that he's blown him out a lot. And I just fear at 11K, he's starting first. Like, he could go out there and completely dominate so he's probably should be the first guy in your lineup. But I'm not gonna make him a prime play because, again, I want to give you options. And just like I did with Kyle Busch, like maybe I'll split my cash some weeks if I don't have a definitive line, or if there's like a 50-50 guy, and I think he's a 50-50 guy here because he could go out there, he could dominate. You got a lot of laps here in this race, and you're going to need those lap leader points and able to have a really good lineup. So it is a 500, but it's 500 kilometers. It's not 500 miles. So there's 312 laps in this because it's for 312 miles. That's the equivalent of 500 kilometers. So not 500 laps, but 312 is a lot. So there's a lot of fast laps. There's a lot of laps let out there to get. So, and I think Larson is definitely could get out there front early and get a lot of laps. But if something goes wrong and he doesn't at 11K and he doesn't finish well, then that's going to end your day. So again, I think Larson is probably the best play on the board here, and probably the first person you want in your cash lineup. But if you have some reservations like I do with that, then maybe split your cash, and then I'll give you another pathway to go. Denny Hamlin, GPP. Like, Hamlin's been good here also. But it just seems like these Joe Gibbs cars and these Toyotas just haven't been fast this year. I just really haven't seen them like take off. And the year in the car, and you think that they'd be all ready, and they were trying a bunch of things in the practice session, and obviously something went right here because Denny Hamlin finished second in qualifying, but I'm still apprehensive on it. So a GPP for me. Byron, cash play, had a dominant car at Vegas. It's probably the same car, so I'm pretty high in him. And if you're not playing Larson as your first lap leader, I think Byron could potentially get out there and take the lead from Larson and lead early. And again, you're saving a bunch of money here. You're saving, what, $1,300 on him, and that can definitely upgrade another guy in your lineup. So really like Byron here in cash. So if you're not going Larson, then probably if you want to start with a guy up here to lead laps early, go with Byron. Brad Keselowski, GPP. I think he'll have medium ownership, but again, he's having a better year this year, but I don't think he's quite there yet. And he's starting a little bit too far forward for me here. So I can't play him in cash. Christopher Bell, same thing. He's just hasn't been consistent. I want to see some consistency out of him in this car before I start playing in cash games. And again, I have my reservations about the Toyotas here, so I'm off of him. Ross Chastain, I think, is a decent GPP here. Also, he did well here last spring. He finished second, so I think that he's somebody that you can definitely consider on these short tracks. And Trackhouse has had some speed, and he wants to get up there and lead laps. So I think it's a GPP just because of the 10K price tag, but and some of the other plays I like. But I definitely think that he's somebody that is in play here. Michael McDowell, I think, started way too far forward. Had a good qualifying run, okay in practice, but again, I think even I don't think he can stay in the top 10. So, and he could potentially fall down a lot further with some of the other plays that I see behind him. So I can't go there. Ryan Blaney, I really like Blaney. Blaney's led a lot of laps here over the years. So he's definitely another one that if you're fading Larson, if you could if you want to put him in as like a early lap leader or like the second wave of lap leaders, I think like Blaney should lead to some point. The trouble with Blaney is he just like ends up like finding trouble like in like this whole thing with Allgaier. Like Allgaier was the right play and he got up there and worked his way and led laps, and then with pit strategy some cars got ahead of him and he worked his way through traffic and got back up there, but then he got wrecked. And Blaney just seems to have the knack to find those wrecks too. I don't think it's gonna fall, it's just bad luck. Kyle Busch, he's been okay here. I think he's finished like top 10, but hasn't been like top 5 in the last couple of races. Again, it was in Joe Gibbs, it was a different equipment. Now he's in the RCR car, but I think that people are still going to be overly high on him, that he won a race already, but that kind of changes strategies for him too, because he doesn't have to win that race unless the multiple winners here, like he's locked into the playoffs. So he's playing with house money, so that could be good or bad. I know the other thing too, and Kyle Busch will probably be the first guy into my GPP lineup. He always is. I just can't, I don't feel this is a Kyle Busch cash week, but they did have practice. They had one of the longest practices they had. They had like a 50-minute practice. And when Kyle Busch has practice, he kept on taking a car back to the garage and to get it dialed in and dialed in and dialed in. And those adjustments is what really made him successful when it was with Gibbs. But once we had COVID, we didn't practice anymore. That's when Kyle Busch started to decline, because he always hates his race car. And he really seemed to hate this race car. He had to make a lot of adjustments on it during this practice session. So I don't know how it turned out. Obviously, he qualified 9th, so it's okay, but he didn't like get the pole. So we'll see what happens with him here. Eric Jones, Legacy Motorsports, like they don't have the speed they had last year. So Jones, it's good to see he qualified up here in the top 10. So maybe things are turning around. I think he'll have low ownership, but I think he's a GPP here. I want to see more. I want to see him up there, like in some top 5s, like challenging for the lead in some races before I start playing with cash again, unless he's starting like 15th or back. Daniel Suarez, same thing. He's been good like for his Trackhouse team, but and it wouldn't surprise me if he was like finished top 5 or got up and led, but I just don't feel like he's got enough floor to play in cash. Reddick, I think, does here. Reddick loves to ride the wall. There's so many grooves here, and we saw I think it was like Ryan Truex in the Xfinity race was like found a groove up top, and Allgaier was doing it too to some degree, where they were running high and able to like catch and pass and get up to the leader. So, and Reddick had a solid start and finish here last spring. Also, he finished 3rd, so might not be a bad bad like GPP to start out with like Chastain, Reddick, and Blaney. I think that might be a solid 3 to start a GPP lineup with, just based on, you know, how many laps they led and how they they've performed here last spring. So I think the fall race has a completely different feel for it, because you have got like the ones competing for the title, and I think a lot of people give way. And by that time of the year, if you're out of it, I think a lot of people are like doing more like testing for the next year. They're actually competing and trying to win the race, but everybody's in it to win it for this one. So I think that's why this could be a completely different feel. So I really like Tyler Reddick. Martin Truex Jr., I think he'll be super popular here with the place differential, and that people think that he's starting, like, you know, with the Clash, he's starting to turn it around. Like the old Martin Truex is coming back, but still, I just think these Toyotas just haven't been really fast. Same thing with Ty Gibbs. I just don't think that he's like caught on. Like, there's a learning curve with these cup cars, and you know, like rookies, nobody cuts them a break. They've got to earn it, and Ty hasn't really earned it. And he brought a lot of baggage from the Xfinity series with some of his attitudes and some of his on track moves and stuff, and being unapologetic for things. So I think that he's got a lot to learn. 14th is, I just wish he was starting like 24th, and I think he'd be more playable. So GPP, I'm not saying he's a complete fade here, but I think he'll have pretty low ownership. Okay, now we've come to the sweet spot. These next 2 drivers I absolutely love here. Kevin Harvick has been so dominant in his career at this track here. And like Joey Logano has also, like, he won the title here last year. I am absolutely going to lock in these 2 guys, because I think that there's just so much upside for them to, I think they have top 5 potential. I think they have win potential, and I think they have a chance to lead laps. Like I said, Logano, it just seems like Team Penske between Logano and Blaney, and Cindric not so much, but I've really like figured out like Phoenix and some of these short flat tracks and finding speed and being able to pass. And again, I guess Logano did better in clean air. And that was the advantage that he kind of had during the fall race for the championship. But I think with this new package and stuff, it can really help them. And Kevin Harvick looked solid in practice. He looked dialed in, a man on the mission. So both these plays are prime plays for me. I think that they'll be pretty popular with the place differential and the potential for like top 5 win equity, and also to lead the race. So look for these 2 guys to have really good days tomorrow. Josh Berry, I think it's a fade. He's spun out so many times in Xfinity, and you know, he's been locked in to this car until Chase comes back. We're thinking about you, Chase, and with this broken leg from the skiing accident. So happy healing, and hope to see him back in the car and competitive sometime soon. And a funny thing is that we don't know if somebody else started the rumors, but there was a rumor out there that Corey LaJoie might be filling in if, like, you know, something happened to Barry, or if, like, you know, Barry wasn't doing good. But Hendricks came out and said, no, we made this decision before the season even started, that if anybody was injured, that Josh Berry would be the one to come up and to run our cars. And so, you know, here he is, and he's not going to run the road courses. They got a road ringer guy to come in for that. So we'll talk about that when those races come up. But Josh Berry is still trying to learn this car. It's really good equipment. He's a really good driver, but everything hasn't clicked yet. And like I said, Noah Gragson came up last year and ran some races for and filled in really good equipment, and just didn't drive as well as he did in Xfinity. Same thing with Ty Gibbs. Like, there's definitely a learning curve, and like, ask like Todd Gillian, ask Harrison Burton, ask Justin Haley. Like, these guys were really good. Like Cindric, like, he's got a couple wins, but other than that, like, he's been above average, I'd say, but like, he didn't exactly come up here and act like take over the Cup Series, because it's different. It's a higher level of competition up here. It's like those that go from college to pro, just say like the speed of the game for like basketball and like football is just so much faster when you get to the elite level, when everybody's an elite competitor against you. So Again, like Josh Berry, not because nothing to do with the namesake, but I just like his style. I think he's a talented driver, but he seemed to struggle here in Xfinity, and I don't really think that he's going to have a dominant day. Alex Bowman, I think he's starting pretty far back here, so I think that he's a good cash play. I don't think he's going to get up there and like dominate the race, but I think he's got top 10 upside. Definitely at 86 isn't a bad price. So if you want to fade like one of the two, like Harvick or Logano, if you don't have a feel for one or two of them or want to save some money, I think 8,600 here. Bowman has some of the same upside as they do, but I don't think he has like the win potential or the laps led potential. But still, I think with the place differential potential, he's a good play here for cash. Bubba Wallace, same thing. Toyotas just really don't have faith in them here. I think he'll probably maybe his ceiling's like the top 15 here. I think he's got the floor of top 20, so he's probably going to finish somewhere in this range, which is fine. But at 86, like I'd rather save money, and I'd rather drop down to Chase Briscoe for $200 more, who I think is a much better play, has 6 more place differential point upside. So that's what I think about Bubba. Austin Cindric, like I said, if you want to play all 3 Penske cars because you think they have it all figured out, I don't hate that, but I just think that he's good at certain tracks and he's above average at other ones. But 20th, where did he finish last fall? Austin Cindric. He finished 24th. So, I think he's going to finish like in the top 20 here, but I don't think he has like the upside that some of the other plays do. Chris Buescher, I think he'll be very popular. He's run well in these types of tracks. Roush Fenway seems to start to be putting some things together and clicking a little bit here. He's got some other drivers that have got pretty good experience here to work with him. So I think that he's going to be very popular at 66 here. I think he can get up to the top 15. Even if he finishes where he starts, he's probably still going to play off his price tag if he runs a clean race. So I think, he's going to be very, very popular as a value play. AJ Allmendinger also, I think people look back to his Xfinity days and see how well he drove here at this track. So I think that will go in. Also, 62 is not a bad price for him. He's in decent equipment here. So I think that, you've got a couple nice value plays here in this range. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., again, he's kind of a wild card. I think you can play him in cash. He's more borderline cash. I feel safer with Buescher or Allmendinger, but I think at 58, if you're trying to jam in like Larson and Logano and Harvick and like the same lineup, you're going to need some of these 5K guys, and I don't hate them here. Chase Briscoe is kind of priced in no man's land at 8,400 and kind of expensive, but I really like him in cash because he is really good at shifting, and this is a shifting track, especially they said in practice with this new downforce package that there might be an advantage for those to be like shifting more, understanding how to shift these cars. He's always been really, really good at that, going all the way back to the Clash last year in one of his first races up here. So I think that he's going to have a solid day, probably top 15, potentially top 10. He won the race in the spring last year, so I like maybe add him to the GPP lineup of Briscoe, Chastain, Reddick, and Blaney. If you have enough salary for those 4, you're probably going to have to put a couple scrubs with them to make it work. But I mean, there are some good value plays we just talked about, so maybe that's a nice contrarian GPP line to throw out there. Ryan Preece, a little expensive here. I like the place differential upside. A GPP, Stewart Haas car. So, if he works with Briscoe and with Harvick, I think, he definitely, but I just wish he was like 6,300 instead of 7,300. but I think of low ownership. So if you want to be a little bit different, if you like, there's not too many cars in the 7K range that I really like here. So I think he's definitely probably my favorite there if you land in that range. Justin Haley, again, he's just kind of been, he was like our darling last year when we needed a cheap guy. Has been okay this year. It's just hoping he had more of a breakout year, but again, we're only a couple races in, so there's still a lot of season ahead of us, so we have to keep an eye on him. But 64, again, I'd probably rather play Busch or Allmendinger in this range if you can get to one of them. But if you have to play Haley, then I get it. That's fine. Harrison Burton, I think he'll be tremendously popular here at 57, but I don't know. This car is just slow. And I know that, he's as a tech association with the Penske cars, but he just doesn't really seem to be progressing at all. And I just think that, he might not be in this ride by the end of the year or even next year. So unless like something really turns around and we start to see a lot of improvement. So I think he Cole Custards it and ends up back in an Xfinity series. So we'll see what happens there. So Corey LaJoie, Mr. I'm going to hop into the 9 car. Again, I don't know if he started the rumor, but, it was kind of funny. But maybe we'll see what he can do with good equipment, because, like, with this average equipment, he's been a pretty decent driver. So, kind of his GPP here. Like, I like it better when he starts a little bit further back, but, I get it. 5,600, not a bad guy. Could probably get up into top 25. A couple place differential points. Does what he needs to do, blue collar guy, with some definitely some upside. We've seen it race after race. He's been like solid in this Spire car. So get it. Todd Gillian is a fade for me here. He's out of the 38 because I think when they made the agreement to keep Zane Smith when all the truck series like flipped upside down and everything, keep him in a Ford because like makes and models changed all over like the truck series, and like when Kyle Busch left and they all want Chevys, and like it just got crazy. So I think that he's in not really good. This is like JJ Yaley's car last week, so I don't think I really gonna play him at 4,900. I think it's a fade here. I just don't trust the tech in it. So Austin Dillon, I think this is a trap because everybody's going to look at it and be like, it's Richard Cho's car starting 30th, so it should hit the lock button on it. But it just hasn't had the speed this year. I just don't know what's going on with Austin Dillon. If he's like too focused on other things like commentating and reality TV shows and stuff other than like racing, he just doesn't seem dialed in. So watch this be the race that he like actually like top fives it or something. So I'm his GPP and not a fade. I think it'll be high owned as people look at it. Again, 75 is kind of steep to price to have to pay for it, but it's your decision. But I'd only play him in GPP lineups. Eric Almirola, I really like this play. He's good at these types of tracks, these short flat tracks, and he's starting way too far back here. I think he definitely has top 15 upside. Like Harvick seems dialed in, like all these Stewart Haas cars. I really like tomorrow. Maybe not Ryan Preece as much, but the rest of them between Briscoe, between Almirola and Harvick, I think that you have some really strong plays. And like I think there's a lot of upside here. 6,900 is a fabulous price. I think he's gonna be super popular. It's probably he and Larson I anticipate being like the most chalkiest plays, and then I think like Buescher just because he opens up a lot there. But I don't feel Buescher as a prime play. I'd rather go with like Harvick and Logano there and build my lineup that way. Noah Gragson, again, Legacy Motorsports just hadn't had the speed. Great driver in Xfinity. Learning curve a little bit steep here still too, but he's starting pretty far back. He's not in garbage equipment. He's in decent equipment, and I think Jimmy Johnson working with his team will eventually lead to good things. So I have his GPP here, borderline cash. If he's last man in your lineup, 6K is not a bad price. So somebody definitely consider. BJ McLeod's a fade. I don't think BJ McLeod is finished on the lead lap at all this year. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it just like seems like every time I look at it, like BJ McLeod's like dead last unless somebody crashed before like a lap 1 or 2 of the race. So Zane Smith and cash play here. He's in the 38. Like we played Todd Gilliland so much last year in this card at this price point, and he's got so much upside here. He's starting with I think like 7 or 8 points because again DK is on a 40-point scale and you don't have 40 cars in the race, so the 36th place car starts out automatically with 5 points and it can't lose any. So I think the worst and then you get like 2 points when you go up every 5. So I think Zane Smith automatically starts with 7 or 8 points with the bonus system. So let's see here, 34th place car gets 7. So 7, he could potentially lose 2. He starts with a 5. He's 5,200. He's a really good driver in the truck series. He probably should be up in Xfinity and Cup eventually. Very talented young driver, decent equipment, and I think he'll be able. And he's run well at Phoenix, so I really he won a title. So obviously he won a race here in truck series. So I really like him. I think he's going to have a good day. Ty Dillon, again, he might finish right ahead of BJ McLeod. I don't know if it's the driver, the equipment, what's going on here, but just really hasn't impressed me. And Cody Ware, I think he's a cash play here too. If you need like 4,700, it's just so cheap. And like, again, he could finish dead last, but I think he might get 2 place differential points because I think he might beat Dillon and BJ McLeod and maybe somebody else who crashes like Harrison Burton or somebody early on. So I think he could end up in get like 5 place differential points. He starts in with like a 9 or a 10 at 4,700. I mean, that's not bad at all. So if you're trying to get like Larson and some of these other like high price 10K guys in your lineup, then you're definitely going to need some scrubs, and Cody Ware and Zane Smith I definitely think work really well. So that's what I got for you this week. Thanks for watching. Remember to change your clocks so we all get less sleep, unless you're like in Arizona where they don't change clocks at all, or one of those other regions in the United States. So appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, you can hit me up at Twitter at MegaRoller31 or drop some questions in the chat. Tomorrow, which is Sunday, I have to drive my daughter back to college. Her spring break is over, so it's about like 8 hours on the road. So I will try to answer your questions as best as I can. But if you don't see me answer, just be patient. I'll try to get to everything right before race lock. I'll, pull off to a rest stop or something like that, just to be safe. I'm not doing lineups and driving. So appreciate you watching again. Like I said, 1,000 views last week, completely awesome. So hopefully we get another 1,000 views on this, but if not, I appreciate you watching, even if you're the only person that watches this. And if I help you, then you know what? You made my day. So thank you very much. Please like this, share with your friends, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, so then you do know when our videos come out. If there's a short window, you'll get the alert, you can watch it, get the information you need to build your lineups before lock. So I'm MegaRoller31 for FSIDFS. Check us out. And even if you don't sign up for NASCAR package, like I said, spring training baseball we've been doing for free, World Baseball Classic we've been doing for free. I do European basketball for free. There's some other free stuff in there too. So just get in the Discord community, check out the rooms. Probably have a Final Four bracket pool coming up here and all kinds of cool things like that. So check us out. Lots of exciting things. Come join our Discord, be a part of our community, and I appreciate you watching once again, and I'll see you next time.